Runsmith Enterprises presents episode 21 of Topics in Endurance Sports. I'm your host, Tim. Today is Sunday, November 18, 2018. Today's topic is a 50K race I did a few months ago called Oak Opening Stampede. You can find out more about me at my website at runsmith.net. Email, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'll repeat some of this stuff at the very end of the podcast. You can also find out about my coaching services. Yes, I'm a run coach, so I'll mention that again at the end as well. So before I get into this particular topic for this episode, I'll mention a few things from last time. So last time in episode 20, I talked about a triathlon I did called the Lake Logan Triathlon. It was a half iron or half Ironman distance put on by Glory Hound Races. Glory Hound something, but it's called Glory Hound, kind of based out of North Carolina. And I told them that I made the podcast and the episode, and they listened to it and kind of got back to me about a couple of things that I said, just to clarify. One thing I said was, I think we're up in the Appalachians where this race was, Canton, North Carolina. And he said, yes, definitely in the mountains, specifically in the Blue Ridge part of the mountains. You know, I'm kind of new to the East. I don't exactly know sometimes if I'm actually in the Appalachian or the Blue Ridge Mountains or Shenandoah or these things. Sometimes I know, sometimes I don't, because I've just drive to a race, to an address. So the race was in the Blue Ridge Mountains, not my first time there. I also talked about a little cabin I stayed at, a little dorm room, and I wondered where everybody else was because there weren't many people in this dorm room, which I thought was a good deal. And he said that there's a bunch of cottages around the property, and that's where a lot of people stayed. I also made a comment about the lake, and I just said, well, no lake is perfectly clean. But he responded that this lake is really clean. It's fed by springs and brooks coming out of the mountains. I believe that. He also said, I also mentioned at the end of the swim, you jump onto a dock, and there's guys to help you pull you out of the water. And he said he was one of those guys, and he really likes that part of the weekend, helping people out of the water. Also, I mentioned about all my flat tires. So I had all these flat tires. It's kind of crazy. You have to listen to it. And he said because of listening to my episode, he's going to have kits at the two bike stops that have extra tubes and carbon or CO2 cartridges. Pretty cool. So I got him to do a little something extra for the race. That wasn't my intention. I don't think that's their job, but that's a pretty cool race director that listened and said, hey, there's something we can do just in case someone needs a tube or something. I also mentioned at the end of the race you got a beer, and I randomly named a brewing company. I didn't know. I couldn't remember. He reminded me the beer was from Highland Brewing Company in Asheville, the first brewer in this town of many. So it was Highland Brewing. Also, I interviewed Chris about the race. He's the one that saved me, if you remember, in the race with giving me a tube, giving me CO2 and all this business. And he talked about how he was coaching an athlete, and I told him, I asked him, did your athlete finish Ironman Chattanooga? His athlete was training for Ironman Chattanooga, and Chris said, yes, he did finish, but unfortunately the swim was canceled. So I didn't hear about this, but evidently at Ironman Chattanooga, the water, the rivers are flooding, I'm guessing, and so they had to cancel the swim. But the guy did finish the race. He said it was still very, very difficult, evidently, doing it. And he had neck and back spasms on the bike. But anyway, kudos to Chris's athlete for finishing Ironman Chattanooga. And it's got to be I'm really lucky, knock on wood. I've yet to do a triathlon where the swim was canceled. It happens periodically. It's not that uncommon for conditions to be bad for the swim, but luckily it's not happened to me yet. But that's got to be a bummer, especially when it's your first Ironman or your first at some particular distance or something really important, and you really want to be able to say, I did the whole thing. And I'm sure to this guy, he did the whole thing, all he could possibly do, but there's got to be a little thing in the back of his mind saying, now I maybe want to do another one so I can say that I did the swim, bike, and run, and not just the bike and run. I mean, not his fault at all, so it's got to be kind of a bummer. Chris also mentioned a Dutch guy who's big into cold water technique, or just cold techniques, being able to handle extreme cold. And I thought he was saying Linhof, like L-I-N, but the guy's name is Wim Hof. Two words. First name Wim, W-I-M. Last name Hof, H-O-F. And you can find him at wimhofmethod.com. And I just kind of looked at the website for fun, and it's based upon 3 pillars. Cold therapy, and it says this: the cold is your warm friend and one of the 3 pillars of the Wim Hof method. Proper exposure to cold starts a cascade of health benefits, including the buildup of brown adipose tissue, blah, 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 blah. So he talks about that a little bit, and the other pillar is breathing. The second pillar of the Wim Hof method is breathing. We're always breathing, yet we're mostly unaware of its tremendous potential. Heightened oxygen levels hold a treasure trove of benefits, and so forth. And the third pillar is commitment, which is a foundation of the other 2 to be committed to doing this. So Chris himself even said it was a little bit woo-woo stuff, but Chris is kind of into this, and you can see, I think, it would be kind of interesting to be really good at this. But evidently this guy jumps into freezing water and swims, or climbs up mountains in just like a t-shirt, even though it's, below 0 or something. Does this kind of crazy stuff. So Chris is kind of into that somewhat. Chris is one of the very few people who did not use a wetsuit at the triathlon, and it was really cold water. It's down to about 60 degrees. And the last thing is, speaking of that flat, those flats I got. So if you listen to the episode, I got 2 flat tires in the middle of the race. I ran over something, and instantly both tires went flat, and this cost me like a half hour. But the odd thing is, about mile 50 of 56 miles, actually around mile 40, my front tire started going flat again. So this was flat number 3 for the day. By mile 50, my front tire was 100% flat. I went ahead and just kept going, so I rode the last 6 miles completely on the rim, and I talked about how difficult that was. But I forgot to mention a couple of things. One really weird thing was, after the race, I put air back in that tire, and it's been totally filled up since. It's not losing air. Why did it go flat during the race, and then after the race I put air in it, and it's fine? So I can only think there was a little pinch, or I don't know. If there's a flat, there's a flat, right? Maybe it was coming out the stem somehow, leaking out the stem. So then when I filled it back up, I fixed that. I don't understand how that happened, but that's kind of a bummer, and because that cost me a bunch of time as well. It was real difficult to ride on a flat tire. And the other thing I noticed was the tire itself. I assumed I would have destroyed it going 15 miles or so on the rim, 6 completely on the rim, and the tire's fine. I got these tough tires. I don't know what they're called. Hold on a second. Oh, I'm banging things around. I have my bike right next to me, but I can't even, hold on. I can't even read they're called gator skin. That's it. My bike happens to be sitting right next to me. Gator skin tires. And it's really hard for them to go flat. Now, granted, I got 3 in one race, but that was like my first flats all summer. You really have to do something for them to go flat, which is what I did. But the tires did not get ruined. I took it to the shop. I mean, I looked at it. It looked fine. I even took it to the shop. I said, is this tire ruined that I went 6 miles on a rim? And he said, no, it's fine. No problem. Hold on a second. I'm going to cough. Sorry about that. So he said it was fine. I can't believe it. So these gator skin tires are pretty amazing. I will note, if you ever get one, the first time you try to put it on your bike, it takes forever. It's really, 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 really hard because it's just really stiff. I don't know how the tire itself has no give to it. Part of why it resists flats, but I was cursing up a storm. In fact, it's so bad that I'm a wimp, and I just let the shop owner do it the first time because they're more willing to do that, I guess. I mean, I sat here for like 45 minutes trying to put the tire on the rim the first time I got a pair and tried to do it myself. I think I'm on my second pair of these now. Anyway, they are really good in the sense they don't flat very often. ignoring the fact that I got 3 in one day, but that's rare. But maybe the drawback to it is they're flat so rarely you get out of practice of changing a tire, which is kind of what happened to me in the race. So I need to purposely go ahead and change them every now and then anyway, just to practice. Okay, sorry about all that blah blah blah. If you're here for the Oak Opening Stampede, I'm sorry about all that. So let's get to the Oak Opening Stampede 50K. This is a race I did on Saturday, September 16th. And that is, yes, 3 months ago again. See, only 2 months ago. I'm getting a little better time-wise. But I am still 4 races behind. I'm way, way, way behind. So, and the thing is, after I do this episode, I'm doing another race in 2 weeks. So I'm going to be 4 behind again really soon because this is Thanksgiving week coming up. So I'm going to be too busy to get another one done before the next race. So in 2 weeks, I'll be 4 behind yet again. But I don't have much scheduled in December or January. In fact, I've got no major races scheduled yet, and I probably won't do anything but little races. So I'm hoping in December and January I can get all caught up. We'll see if that happens. Okay, on to today. Oak Opening Stampede 50K, Saturday, September 16th, 2 months ago. And this race was at the Oak Openings Metro Park in White House, Ohio, where this was. That is up kind of near Toledo, Ohio. And for this race, it benefits something called Sow Hope, as in S-E-W, Hope. And a little bit about it, just since that's who the proceeds went to. They partner with the poor, marginalized, and exploited in Guatemala to help end the injustices of poverty. They follow the command of Jesus Christ to serve the poor. We commit to care for and love the people we serve as though they are our intimate brothers and sisters. They have after-school education programs. They work with families to find sustainable solutions to hunger with gardens, fish farms, poultry farms, fruit trees, organic farming techniques. They also provide cervical cancer screenings and treatment. They have visiting medical teams. They try to develop clean water in these areas. So it sounds like a pretty good little organization to donate your proceeds to. The race director of this race is Randy. Really don't know how to say his last name. R-U-C-H. Poor guy probably gets that a lot. Ruch. He's a really super nice guy. I'm a little bummed at the end of the race I didn't see him. He was probably out on the course somewhere. I always try to get my picture with the race director. Either that or somehow I just blanked and walked right by him. So I absolutely did not mean to do that. I always want to see him at the end, but I somehow missed him. But I did have some email exchanges with him. Super, super, super nice guy. And he put on a great race. So thank you, Randy, for that. The 50K race started at 8:30 a.m. There's also a 25K race that started at 9 and a 5K at 9:10. So whatever distance you like, you can do. The race itself was about 8 hours. I'm sorry. You get 8 hours for the 50K. So that's the cutoff for the 50K. Totally doable when I talk about the course. I drove up the day before. It's about a 3-hour drive from me straight north. I live just north of Cincinnati, and I just go straight north on 75. About 3 hours north of me. I stayed at a hotel the night before. I didn't want to leave at 3 in the morning. I picked up my race packet at a running store called Second Soul in Perrysburg, Ohio. And they did have a race day packet pickup as well. The night before the race, I also drove to the start line, so I knew how to get there. It's right next to, the start finish is right next to a little lake called Mallard Lake. That's where the start finish is. Like I said, in Oak Openings Metro Park. In Ohio, we have a whole park system, and they're all called Metro Parks. They're run in part by the state funding, but also a lot of volunteer workers as well maintain the parks. So a little bit more about the race. Like I said, you get 8 hours for the 50K. There's a lot of aid stations at this race. There's one at mile 2, 4.9, 8.2, 10.7, and 13.5. It's a 15.5 mile loop. So you've got on the course itself, in 15.5 miles, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 aid stations, and then one at the start finish. So 6 aid stations in 15.5 miles. That is a lot of aid stations. Really nice as far as that is concerned. So of course the 25K people will run this once, and it's one big loop, and the 50K people will do it twice. The aid stations had Gatorade as well as your typical things like M&Ms, cookies, peanut butter and jelly, fruit, pretzels, that type of thing. They didn't have gels, so bring your own gels. Doing the 50K, I set up a drop bag right at the start finish. I mean, it was literally on the path pretty much we ran on. I took one step to the left and there was my drop bag. So very convenient for that. The temperature that day was nice. It got up to the low 80s, pretty warm, but it was still mid-September. So nothing unusual about that. I don't recall it being horrifically humid, which could be a problem. It was hot. I'm sure I was sweating a lot, but it wasn't horrible. I mean, I don't think the temperature was such that it really caused any major issue. There was roughly 200 runners between the 3 races. Most were in the 25K, probably 100 of them or something in the 25K, and then about 50 in the 50K, 50 in the 5K, very, very roughly. The trail we ran on is called the Scout Hiking Trail up there. If you ever want to go up there and just run on that. Very, very, very flat race. Probably one of the flattest trail ultras I've ever done. There's very little water or mud, literally a couple, 2 or 3 tiny squishy spots that were irrelevant. Okay, there's no water crossings or anything like that. There is some rocks and quite a few roots to go over. Sometimes you're on a bike trail. I don't know if it was all a bike trail, if part of it was, but they have the ramps, that you go over, which are always kind of fun. So you had those. The roots did get to me. I managed to do most of the first loop, but then I hit a root and wiped out at the beginning of the first loop and twice on the second loop. This happens to me. Sometimes if a course is really technical, I will not fall. And that's because I'm picking my feet up so much and I'm so concerned about it or, paying attention, I don't fall. I just did a 100K race, which I'll review soon. Will it be the next one? I think it'll be the next one. I did a 100K, really quite technical, zillions of places to fall, and I didn't fall. Here, this race is totally flat, just some little roots all over the place, and I wipe out because I'm lulled into not picking my feet up as well. It's completely the problem. So, and it can just be a small little root sticking up. It's brown, the path is brown, you just don't see it, and boom, there you go down. So this is common for me to fall more on a non-technical course than I do on a technical course because I'm just not paying attention as well. I get lulled into shuffling a little bit more. There you go. It's obviously a different way of running to go over a technical course than a flat course where you can shuffle and not worry about picking your feet up. So I did get really, really dirty running because I only had a tank top. What do guys call that? Sleeveless shirt is all I had on. So I was totally covered in dirt, which is fine. It's fun. There's not a whole lot to say about this course in a way, which is not at all bad, but there's not like this section I was like this and this section was like this and then I had this big mountain and then this and this. Not a whole lot to say because it's a pretty simple course. It's pretty much basically the same throughout the whole course. It's pretty similar. I mean, I totally loved it. And but it's just pretty much single path running through some nice woods. Just enjoyable day out there running, and they have all these aid stations, which is great. By the way, the volunteers were fantastic at the aid stations. They were hanging out and just had everything we needed, always willing to help. As far as how my run went, I had just done the triathlon a month before, and I don't really run much in the summer. So the triathlon was a month before, which means I had only been running about 4 weeks as far as like trail running and getting ready for trail races. I mean, I run in the summer, but really only twice a week, and it's all on road pretty much. So I did the triathlon, then kind of ramped up for this. So I wasn't totally ready to be doing an ultra for one. My longest run before this in months was probably like 10 miles. Well, it was the half marathon at the triathlon that finished with a half marathon. That was my longest run since May. So I went from May all the way to September, not doing more than one road half marathon, and then I jumped into this. But it was perfect because this was, again, not a whole lot of huge difficulty to it, which was great. So anyway, the first loop I was feeling pretty good, but I was starting to wear down in the second loop. I could tell I was kind of hurting, but I did manage to run the whole thing in the sense, and when I say that, I don't mean I didn't walk, but I just walked maybe in and out of aid stations or for a couple moments here and there. But generally I ran the whole thing, did okay. My watch said that the race was 29.8 miles, but that doesn't mean a lot. You're winding a lot. Bike trails are a lot of twisting and turning, and then you're in the foliage. There's a lot of it in September, so I don't think the watch can keep up really with everything. There were mile markers, not only permanent ones. I think the course has permanent mile markers. Don't quote me on that. There was either that, or there was that and course markers they put every mile. I had the feeling it was measured pretty well, that it probably really was close to 31 miles. My watch gave me 2,180 feet, 2,180 feet of up and down. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's not very much, and that probably is, semi-accurate in that sense. Pretty small number, not a whole lot of up and down. You're just going little baby ups and downs, over and over and over and over. Just up and down, up and down, and up and down. But it's like 10 feet up, 20 feet down, 20 feet up, 10 feet down, that type of thing. My first lap took me about 2 hours and 50 minutes for the first 25K. The second 25K, 3:14. It's really not that bad. I mean, it's 24 minutes slower, but I also stopped and took pictures on the second lap only, so that did cost me some time. I wasn't trying to go fast. I guess at the end, I started thinking, maybe I can break 6 hours, totally random number, which I didn't do. I just ended up around 6:04. So my final time was 6:04:12. And in my age group, I was second of three in the 50 to 59-year-old male age group, second of three. Hey, not bad. I was 15th of 30th overall, right smack dab in the middle. And a little bit back about what I wore, then I'll get back to more numbers. I wore my hydration vest with 2 bottles up front, like what I would wear in a long ultra or an ultra with aid stations far apart. Obviously, I didn't need that for this race with aid stations 2 to 4 miles apart at the most. I could have almost went with no bottle whatsoever, but it was warm. But I could have went with like one handheld. It would have been fine because there were so many aid stations. And I saw people running with no water bottles whatsoever. I kind of like to sip, so I always like to have a bottle with me. But I didn't need what I had, my hydration vest with the 2 bottles. Absolutely did not need that. But I hadn't worn that since May, so I want to just get it on to make sure it feels okay, start getting used to it again for the fall races. I take a gel an hour, and that usually does well. And then I nibble at the aid stations, whatever I want. I like peanut butter and jelly, so I'm sure I had a lot of that, and some pretzels or chips or M&Ms, whatever feels good. My shoes I wore were Skechers Go Trail Ultras. I like those, and they're perfect for a distance like this. Haven't really used them much for longer distances yet. Been kind of going to the Speed Goats, Hoka Speed Goats for longer distances, or my Hoka Challenger ATRs, if it's not technical. So those are kind of, at the moment, my 3 trail running shoes. I did get a new pair of Skechers. I haven't worn them in a long race yet. Actually, it's not true. I did wear them for 50K of a long race coming up. But anyway, those are my 2 brands and roughly my 2 my shoes I've been wearing. So Skechers Go Trail Ultra for this one. Like I said, my time was 6:04:12. I was second of third in my age group, 15th of 30th overall. The person who won my age group was Steve Miaskowitz. I think that's how you say it. Steve Miaskowitz of Lambertville, Michigan, 5:52:37. So he beat me by 12 minutes. I think even with me stopping to take pictures, I did not waste 12 minutes taking pictures, I don't think. Yeah, maybe if I knew he was that close to me, 12 minutes, probably a mile and a half or something. 12 minutes. No, maybe that's only a mile. Whatever. Not that far. And I really gave a crap. Maybe I could have caught him, but what does it matter? He could say the same thing too, probably, right? If he knew I was right there pushing on me, he probably would have went faster as well. So I think it's probably about right that I got second since I was 12 minutes behind. The 50K winners were Rachel Lumbreezer. She's 26 of Swanton, Ohio, 4:24.56. Pretty darn good. She beat me by an hour and 40 minutes. She was the overall winner of the 50K. Fantastic. For the men, it was Mark French. He's 46 of Napoleon, Ohio, 4:49.33. I didn't know there was a Napoleon, Ohio, but there you go. For the great job to those two. Great times. 25K winners. Matt Folk. He's 42 of Perrysburg, Ohio, 1:38.34. That's cooking. He beat the next person by like 20 minutes. For the women, it was Kristen Failing. She's 30, also of Perrysburg, Ohio, 2:13.08. Let's get to my interview. I got an interview with a couple of people after the race. About the race. Let's hear what they had to say. Okay, I'm speaking to a couple of finishers of the, what was this called? The Oak Opening
Stampede
50K and 25K. You look like a 25K finisher, right?
I'm a 25K finisher.
And your name is?
Lindsay Weaver.
And you're from?
Bowling Green.
Kentucky? No, wait, there's Ohio, right?
Ohio.
I'm a little new to the area, so when I think Bowling Green, I first think Kentucky.
Yeah, nope, Ohio.
Is that fairly close to here?
Yeah, about, 30 miles or so?
Yeah.
Are you from Bowling Green also?
Yes, I am.
And your name is?
Mike Long.
And you did the 50K
Yes,
along
I
with
did.
me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the first question is, have either of you done this before?
No.
This is our first trail race.
Really?
First trail
Yeah.
race and first 50K.
Yeah.
You start with a 50K for your first trail race.
Yeah.
Because I started with like 5K trail races.
Yeah. No, the longest we actually did before this was a half marathon.
We've done like the Glass City marathon, half marathons, the Columbus half marathon, the Muddy Mini half marathon.
That pretty much sums it
Yeah,
up.
couple Glass
Yeah.
City a couple of times, but no, this is the first trail run.
Nice. Well, theoretically, you picked a good one in the sense that it's flat.
Yeah, it's relatively
it
flat.
was
Yeah.
so much
And
fun
shaded.
too.
For the
Yeah.
most part. It was still hot.
Yeah.
A little
But-
warmer than we might have probably guessed for this time of the
Yeah.
year, but well, that's pretty good. Okay, so Lindsay, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
How did your race go?
It was wonderful. I was kind of worried that how I would do. I was running with a friend. He left. Yeah, it was good though.
You
Overall,
stayed together with him the whole time?
I did. I felt like I could have kept going. I wanted to
well,
keep
that's good.
going, and I couldn't leave a friend behind, so I stuck with him.
It's all right.
So
All right.
definitely coming back for another one.
Very good. Another trail race, you mean? Just in
Yeah,
general?
you're here coming to
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah, this is a good...
Yeah,
This is either a good beginner race or a good training race.
yeah,
Either way.
absolutely.
That's good. All right. Did you say Mike?
Yes.
How did your race go?
My race probably started off a little fast. I tried to stay with the group that was going out a little faster than I probably would have gone.
Right.
But, of course, on race days, you always do something stupid, like forget your watch on your nightstand. So I didn't have any kind of sense of pace during most of the race.
How did it go, like, first lap, second lap? Did you slow down quite a bit? the second lap?
I did slow down quite a bit the second lap. There was a lot of walking spaced in those last 10 miles. It was very, very difficult there, but I suffered through it, but I managed to get through and do a little better than I had hoped that I would do, so I can't really complain too much about it.
Very good. And it looks like neither one of you had any true falls.
Nope, I did not fall.
Maybe some little
Just a
stumbles.
little one, yeah, a little one.
Okay, how about shoes? That's not your shoes you wear. What shoes did you wear?
I had the Brooks 10
Adrenaline or what?
Ghost.
Ghost. Okay, I have Ghost.
Yeah.
Okay, not really a trail shoe, but works for this.
They worked okay,
it
but
works
I'll
fine
tell
for
you,
you.
I need a new pair after today.
Really? It works fine on this type of course. So what did you wear?
Not very technical. I got these New Balance Hero version 3s, I believe they are. They are a trail shoe, but not too fond of them.
What was it that kind of? Did
I think
did
they
it beat up your feet too much? Or?
I think they're heavy, and they have this kind of like vinyl coating on them for some reason,
hot?
and it gets very hot, and my feet get soaked. I changed socks after the first
really?
loop, but I mean they were already sponges anyway to begin with. So, well,
Do you guys wear any particular type of socks?
Features.
Features.
Yeah.
Features
I
all
like
the
features.
way.
I
Yes.
should probably buy those. I see
like
those
them a
all the
lot.
time, and for some reason I haven't picked a pair up yet.
I like the
Highly
crew ones, the
recommend.
ones that are a little taller, especially out here. You know. You don't
Yeah,
wanna
and
get
I don't
that
ever wear
sand
crew
and stuff
socks,
in
but I do like wearing the crew out here.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to have something a little higher to keep stuff from getting dirt from getting in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's kind of short. What about drinking? Did you carry a bottle or anything, or just drink at aid stations?
I did not carry a bottle. I relied on the aid stations.
They had a lot of aid stations
and
for trail
yeah,
race.
they did. I did a lot of water. I like to dilute my Gatorade with water. I have never drank pickle juice while running. I did that for the first time today. That was good.
All right. What about you?
Yeah, I think the pickle juice saved me a couple times. Actually, I thought I was really gonna just fall apart there for a while, but I
Supposedly
think
it
it
helps
helped.
with cramping.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was losing a lot of sodium because I was sweating a ton, so I kind of.
Did you carry a bottle or anything?
I did. I actually have a Nathan HPL hydration vest.
Okay.
And I carry just a bottle like stuffed in the front of it. I didn't have the bladder in it because I don't really care for the taste of the water coming through that bladder. But
Right.
I did have some Stinger gels and some Honey Stinger waffles too that I snacked on throughout the race too.
That's the next thing I was going to ask. So you had some gels and waffles?
Yeah. I
Did you
didn't
eat
really
from
eat too much at the aid stations.
Not too
It
much?
just every time I looked at anything on the tables, I was like, "Oh no, I can't. I don't think I can stomach any food right now."
What about you for eating or?
No, I didn't really eat anything. I had a couple of grapes, a couple of pretzels. One aid station had bacon.
I saw that. I had one piece.
I kept eyeballing it. I kept we stood there for maybe a minute or so, and I kept walking towards it. Nope, walk back towards it. I was like, damn it, I should have got a piece of bacon. I was like, I'll get a piece of bacon at the next aid station, but there was no bacon, so
Oh well.
I don't know.
Okay. Last question. Are you guys signed up for or thinking about anything else coming up soon?
I am considering something possibly in November. I don't know what yet. I haven't really looked at any of the races that are coming up then, but
Maybe you mean like another trail race around here? Or it could be a
yeah,
road
maybe
race?
another trail race definitely. I just recently started running on the trails and stuff, and I really kind of seem like I prefer it over the roads. It's a lot more interesting than just droning down the asphalt, you know. But I'm thinking about possibly signing up for a Mohican race in June.
I have done that. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a pretty
Heard
tough
it's-
race.
Yeah, I've heard it's very tough. So
Yeah.
that would give me plenty of time to kind of prep for it.
Plus, there's various distances, so you can kind of pick what feels right.
Exactly.
That's good. What about you?
I am definitely planning on signing up for the Glass City Marathon. The full.
Right.
When is that? That's in April.
April. Okay.
Anything?
A friend of mine's an ambassador for that.
Oh, nice.
David Essinger. I'm talking about you. Dave Essinger.
Anything before that, I'm not really sure.
Not sure. All right. Well, congratulations on your first trail race.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks.
Bye-bye.
Hey, bye.
Okay, there you go. Thank you very much, Lindsay and Mike. You can see they enjoyed themselves. By the way, Lindsay finished. They're both from Bowling Green, Ohio, as they said. She finished in 3:35.58 for the 25K, and Mike finished in 5:24.31 for the 50K. Actually, pretty darn good. He was second of 8 in his age group, and that's not even a half hour behind the winner. I mean, for his first 50K, he pretty much knocked it out of the park there. That's really good. I will note that I feel like after listening to it, I was kind of condescending, because as soon as they said this was our first trail race, then I kind of felt like, oh, I've done all these trail races. I did not mean to be condescending, because I kind of said, oh, yeah, well, this is great for beginners, kind of like, oh, you little beginner types. And it's kind of crazy. First of all, Mike kicked my ass, as you can see, by 40 minutes. So to be implying that, he's somehow lesser than me is pretty stupid. But all I meant by beginner race, I guess, is this race did remove some variables. For one, you didn't have to worry about training or doing gigantic uphills. You didn't have to worry about any gigantic downhills. You didn't have to worry about running in the night. You didn't have to worry about super, super technical course, even though I wiped out 3 times, but I'm a klutz. But there weren't, boulders to scamper over or tons and tons of jagged rocks or anything like that. And on top of that, you had all these aid stations, which made it nice, every 2 to 5 miles. So you kind of didn't have to worry about, gee, am I going to have to go 2 hours without aid? There was none of that business. It wasn't incredibly freezing. It wasn't, 10 degrees. It wasn't 100 degrees. It was kind of warm, but not horrible. So that's what I meant, by beginner race. I kind of hate putting that label on something, because any race you do, you can go as hard as you want and kill yourself as much as you want. If you race this race hard enough, you will completely destroy yourself. It doesn't matter if someone calls it a beginner race or not, if you run hard enough. So it was still a fantastic race. So I just hope I didn't come off as condescending as I felt I did. A little bit about what we got. Oh, also, I mentioned, they said Bowling Green, Ohio, and I kind of acted like I didn't understand that at first. I realize now on the way home, I stopped in Bowling Green, Ohio, and ate on the way home from the race. I went right through it. And I realized I had done that before. I've been to Bowling Green, Ohio a couple of times eating. That's all I've ever done is stop to eat. But I should have known where Bowling Green, Ohio was. I just hadn't really paid attention to what city I was in before when I stopped to eat there. A little bit about the swag we got. It's right behind me. And let's see. I got a nice bib. I'm showing it to the camera. Eventually, I'll put this on YouTube as a video. I video all my episodes, and I put them on YouTube. It can take anywhere from a week to 2 months before I get it up there, just whenever. I'm so far behind now, who knows? But I got a little bib, and it does say Oak Opening Stampede 50K. My number, 228. Got a cool shirt. It's actually kind of hilarious. Bright red, and I like obnoxiously colored shirts. Bright red, and it says on it, the return of Oak Opening Stampede. It says return because for some reason last year they did not have one. They've had it for a number of years, but they missed in 2017. So hopefully they'll keep doing it. So it says the return of Oak Opening Stampede, and then it's got this little comic on it, and the guy saying, "Darling, did you miss me?" And she says, "Yes, dear, more than you know." Anyway, here's the shirt if you're looking up at the camera. Pretty funny. I'll also put a picture of this on the website on the show notes. And then everybody who finished, at least the 50K, it says, I guess everyone who finished any distance got a nice wooden medal. I always like the wooden ones that make out of a tree, with little brass plate on it. It says Oak Opening Stampede 2018 finisher. Very nice. And then people who podiumed, I guess. I don't know if it was top 2 or top 3 or whatever. It might have been all 3 of us because I was second of 3 in my age group. But we all got a mug, a nice little coffee mug type of thing. Well, for me, hot chocolate because I don't do coffee. And it says Oak Opening Stampede, 5K, 25K, and 50K trail races age group award. So that was cool. So I can't remember what this cost. I forget, but I feel like it was pretty cheap. It could have been like $40-$50. And I signed up late. So anyway, that is about all I have. I will, again, just to comment on the race, I highly, highly recommend this race. I mean, unless you are the type, you will only enter a race if it's like hugely epic with mountains and all that stuff. If that's you, then I guess skip it. I don't get that attitude myself, but that's the way some people are. But this is a great race, and yes, it is true. It's kind of a nice starter, beginner trail race. Again, as condescending as that sounds, or for a first ultra. It just removes some of these other variables, and you can get practice at running on trails or running a 50K. Great place to start. It's also just a race to have fun. If all your races are like, I don't know if I'm going to make it, here's a race where, hey, just have fun. Go out and run and have fun. It's also very good if you're like me and you're just ramping up for the fall. You don't run a lot in summer. I know that's unusual for a lot of people, but for me it isn't. It's really good for ramping up as a training race. So I don't usually repeat races a lot, not my big epic races, because usually they cost a lot of money and I've driven quite a distance. This is one race I could see me doing again and again because it's fairly local. I can go, it doesn't cost a lot, and it's always going to be a good training race. And so those are the types I actually end up doing more often. So I could see me going up to do this again, just to get my feet going again in the fall. So very good race. Great job, Randy, putting it on. Volunteers are fantastic. All the other runners are fantastic. Had a great time. Highly, highly recommend 2 thumbs up for this race. And that's it for today. You can find out more about me at runsmith.net. Email, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. My email is chemsmith1@gmail.com. Chemsmith, like the beginning of the word chemistry, CHEM, Smith, and then the number 1, chemsmith1@gmail.com. You can find out about my coaching services there. I do run coaching, often for beginners, but I'll take anyone. Maybe you want to try your first trail race, your first 50 mile, first 100 mile. I can try to get you through some of these things. I even do triathlons if you really want. I'm not an expert triathlon coach, but if you're kind of a beginner triathlete, I can coach you through that as well. And that is it. This is Runsmith Enterprises presenting topics in endurance sports. Signing out. Have a fun workout.